The answer, as it relates to a lot of things, unfortunately, with this franchise, is right there. It's already there. It's under their roof. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. I make no secret of being a Keanu Benton guy. I make no apology for it either. When I talk to people inside those four walls on South Water Street, they speak of him in tones that generally get reserved for players like, oh, I'm going to drop this one on you, Javon Hargrave. That's right, Javon Hargrave. You know when they really realized what they had in Hargrave? Yep, when he was in Philadelphia. Oh, maybe they knew internally, but they didn't make enough of a push. This was when Kevin Colbert was GM to keep him. So they didn't value him as much as they should have. And, by the way, they didn't value him as much on the field as they should have, meaning that even though it had been several years already that Casey Hampton was gone, they continued to treat the nose tackle position as if Big Snack were still around. What's going on now, what went on in 2024, what went on in 2023 really isn't any different. Think about this. Yeah, I know they most often will line up with two guys down, not three, even though it's called the 3-4 defense and the 3-4 is still considered the base. It's usually Cam Hayward and Larry Ogunjobi out there together. You'll see Cam and Keanu every once in a while. You'll see different mixes of that. You'll see a lot of rotation. So I'm not going to bite down on this subject too hard, but there's more to be had from 95. I know that from talking to him all through the season. I know that from talking to others around him in that room. And when I say that, I don't mean that he needs to elevate necessarily. I believe he is, if not, well, if it wasn't, let's put it this way. If it wasn't for the Minkah Fitzpatrick example, he'd be the one player who's being most egregiously misused in my interpretation. Why? Look at his skill set. Look at the kind of damage that he wreaks right up front. Look at what he does to throw people off of him. And then, if you can find the footage, feel free to point out what he does when he actually is allowed to go into the backfield. Now, is a coach going to counter? Is Mike Tomlin going to counter? Terrell Austin going to counter when I say he's not allowed to do that? Well, of course he can. Of course. What do you mean? We'd love for our big men up front to get to the quarterback. No, because there are a lot of different ways to get that done. And they don't exercise those ways. If you want a sampling of this, I'm actually going to give you one from the Steelers themselves because they did this in the Baltimore game. Meaning, of course, week 19, couldn't be bothered to do it in the first 18. Early on in the game, they sent Patrick Queen hard up against the front of the Baltimore line. And they did so to take up not one, but two blockers. Who does that sound like for you longtime fans? Right, Big Snack. It was Queen playing the role of Big Snack. Really neat little scheme. Would have loved to have seen more of it over the course of the season, but the Steelers had made up their minds last summer in Latrobe that they were too good to blitz. They don't need to be blitzing. They don't need to be doing anything clever. They don't need to be moving TJ Watt, and they definitely don't need to be doing anything to try to get the most out of probably their highest ceiling young player on that side of the football. And is that going to change? Does anything change with these guys? All I'm feeling right now from within this environment is that the Steelers are really upset, and this came from Art Rooney the other day as well, about how lousy their run defense was, especially in Baltimore, with the Ravens getting 299 yards on the ground. But what are they going to actually do about it? Are they going to look at this draft? Everybody's raving about the defensive line. Yesterday, according to Chris Halleck, our reporter down there in Mobile, Alabama, Tomlin and Austin were basically salivating over the big guys defending down there. And that's what this draft is already being labeled as. It's supposed to be the big defensive line class. And you know, and I know they're not going to be able to, Steelers institutionally aren't going to be able to pass up on that position, even if it might not be one of need. Not saying I wouldn't take one, just, you know, I don't know that it would be a need. To me, a need is a wide receiver. A need is a running back, even if you don't take him in the first round. I don't see defensive line as a need, but given the choice of trying to do something to maximize Benton versus, let's just find Happy Land here and draft somebody, they're probably going to go for Happy Land. When we come back, J1Q.
This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar.
Today's J1Q comes from Scott, who says, DK, I was thinking the other day, what if Justin Fields decides he wants to start somewhere else? Maybe down deep, even though he's saying all the right things, that he wouldn't have been happy how he was replaced by Russell Wilson and so forth. Scott, I've thought about this, and as I've shared with you already, and I repeated yesterday, he and I have talked about this. He's set on staying with the Steelers. He's also set on starting. So this is where I think it's okay to take some cues or some hints from different things that you see, hear, and read. I can share with you what he said to me. You can put it in the category that you did, which is maybe he's just saying all the right stuff. And then I can come back and point out that a couple days after the season, there's all this happy stuff on his Instagram about his teammates and good times that he had with them and the bond and everything else. And then I can also repeat what was said by Mike Tomlin a few days ago and then by our Rooney. And I thought Rooney's comments were that much stronger on this subject just a couple of days ago about which direction they hope to take this. And then from there, I can rewind a bit here and share with you that I didn't stop talking to Fields through the season just because he wasn't starting anymore. We had regular conversations. And as much as he would affirm for me his belief in himself, his confidence in himself and all that other stuff, you could also tell he just wanted to get out there, but not in some unprofessional way. The two most inseparable people on this entire football team were Fields and Russell Wilson. Anybody will attest to that. Practices, walkthroughs, before games, extended periods after games, regardless of who played, 100% of the time having the other guy's back. Take this from someone who's covered quarterbacks who don't particularly like each other. It's hard to hide when that happens. So Justin didn't have an issue with Russ. Justin definitely didn't have an issue with any of his coaches or anything. And in fact, the most effusive praise that Justin gives to anybody at all in the equation, including for his own growth, for his own maturity, his own poise, are the people overseeing the Steelers. So this scenario that you lay out, that he'd want to start somewhere else, you would think that'd be the last thing he'd want. You don't want to be that guy that's continuously changing teams early in a career. It's not a good look. He's already had to make one. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We'll be back with another one of these tomorrow. And a reminder that the Double Shot Show The video show that we do in the afternoon will be back on Monday when I get back from covering hockey here in Utah.